Test 1, 2.
There we go.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. 3 items on the agenda tonight. First is Justin and Janelle Teasy own a 8-plex at 1705 South Raleigh and request the speed limit be changed on Raleigh Street to 25 miles per hour all the way to Spruce Street. Traffic is exceeding 35 to 45 miles per hour in the 25 mile an hour zone. They're unable to turn out of the complex. They do have attached requests there, and right now it turns to 35 miles per hour right at about Pine Street. I think it's just on the south side of Pine, which is about a block south of Norway.
Everything north of Norway is 20 or
25, yep. And Justin Teasy is here if you'd want to speak to him, or do you have anything to say other than what you submitted?
I don't know if you guys got any questions. I'm just worried about someone pulling out and getting hurt.
I think a lot of your problems, people are avoiding the First Street instructions.
Correct.
There's a lot more traffic on there right now than in the past.
We also got grasslands now that has added traffic. And it's only going to get busier down there, I think, as future goes. I did talk to Meadema, they're directly south of me, and he's got the same problem, he said, pulling out of there with his trucks. And, you know, I don't know what the magic number is if we go all the way to Spruce or if we go to the interstate, but I'm good either.
What is the speed limit from Spruce, from Norway to Spruce?
It's 25 for about a block, and then it goes to 35.
I see, so they can rev it up from there.
Yep.
Or they're coming from the other direction awful fast, usually.
Coming in from out of town.
Yeah.
Anybody else here that wishes to address this?
I guess my point is, if we have a speed problem, we should try and take care of it with enforcement, not with necessarily changing the limit. If there's a, and here's my example, if there's a line of 15 cars and they're all going 25 miles an hour, it's going to take you a lot longer to get out of your driveway than if they're going 35 miles an hour. So the safety risk of an accident at 35, yeah, it's 10 miles an hour, force equals mass times acceleration, and 10 miles an hour is 35 is 10 miles an hour more than 25, so the type of the accident would have that much more force. But if we have a speed problem there, I'd like to see us do something either with, if it's in the wrong spot or whatever, because cars, you know, on the rest of the part, either we do something at Cabela Drive and Raleigh for stopping them there, or something else. But, you know, if they're speeding, let's pick them up.
Has there been any accidents yet, or has it been
that's my
No, we've had very few accidents out there.
Ever since we put the four-way stop signs.
Right. You know, the other thing we could look at doing is moving that radar speed board. That's about 2 blocks to the north.
Yeah, but that was there for the park, wasn't it?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was designed for during the construction.
You have an extra one.
We don't. Not right. They're all in school zones or parks right now.
You know, the one thing you don't think of is there is off-street parking there. It's really tight. You know, and so a lot of the tenants don't want to park on the street for that reason.
And Lyndon, the question, what's the discussion, and we've had it before at Cabela Drive and Raleigh, especially because of grasslands at 8 o'clock in the morning and at noon and at 5 o'clock at night, it backs up. I mean, it's a 3-minute traffic jam.
It is, but for a short time, that's about all we've had. We are looking in the future like Raleigh and Spruce. As if the hospital will fully move out there or anything, we may have to learn traffic lights at that intersection. And if it continues to expand with other housing and any commercial development out there.
And so if we changed it, we'd move this sign, so right at Raleigh and Norway, it would be 25 all the way to where?
Wherever you decide. So we could go all the way to Raleigh, or you could turn at 35 at Interstate, which is moving it about a block to the south.
South of the interstate, nothing's gonna be developed on the east side, that's the
Wetlands. Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Trail King is,
Trail East.
sorry. Oh, this is Trail East.
They developed on the other side.
Right.
You know, so that's one thing you could do is try and moving it about to I-90, where the 35, or you can go all the way to Raleigh. Spruce, I mean, to Spruce. Yep. Or you could leave it and see how it shakes out once the construction's done.
Is there any negative to moving it to the interstate?
No. I mean, yeah, we would. We
I
just
mean, I
have
drive
to
it all the
know
time, and it's
Yep.
Wide open.
Yeah. Yeah.
The negative is going to be the people that don't agree with reducing it, people that drive it. And you will hear about it. I mean, that is some concerns. We've taken the number down over the years, and we do hear about it. Lyndon hears about it, and you know, I think it's probably a good idea, as Steve pointed out, maybe get back to somewhat of normalcy, and then possibly look at having Lyndon control it a little bit more, and then maybe take a look at it after that and see if things have, and if not, then if we have a traffic issue, then I think we need to slow it down.
Sure.
I just like to say we are close to a school there. I
Yep.
mean, there's a lot of kids coming around. I mean, if we could stop one accident, I think it'd be worth it. Moving a sign's a lot cheaper than hiring another officer, in my mind.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about hiring an officer.
I think they got their hands full.
Well, Justin, you've seen more traffic since Sanborn Street, or not Sanborn, Havens.
Burr.
Or Burr's.
That's
Burr's
correct.
been in business,
Yep,
so.
definitely.
And when that's done sometime in November, maybe they could push them, or unless they're like goats, they take the same way now.
I think the Grasslands Averis has picked that up
Oh, sure.
too.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we put the four-way stop in, because we did see some
Increased traffic. Yep, it met the warrants.
I think the majority of push was construction. My daughter works at the Grasslands, and she takes this one only because she hates grocery. But she will go back to Burrow, so it's a quick route. Automatically push her out of the way, but it's still moving along. I think that's everybody's. I mean, there's a lot of people telling you, I don't want to go to grocery if I can avoid it.
I'm one of them.
Well, I think, go ahead and leave it as is, control it, and just look at it.
Can we put it back on December
Yeah.
Traffic Commission?
Sure.
I think you'd at least want to give it a good month or two. A month would be the middle of December.
Because once
We're
done November.
assuming Burr Street is going to be done in November, like they said.
They said, yeah. Look at it, middle of December.
So you want to table it until December? Is that a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Next, Dan Buchman requests to change 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street from the current configuration. It's just two-way, one block off of Main, then one way after that, to be two-way streets from Lawler to Minnesota. With the upcoming construction coming on North Sanborn, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we will have to change the blocks east and west of Sanborn to be two-way traffic during construction time anyway, or many people won't be able to drive to their residence. So Dan is present.
I live in the neighborhood there on Duff Street, and of course, I haven't seen any problems since they changed one block off of Main to be two-way streets. That seems to have worked well. Where the original challenge was that there was a lot of traffic driving the wrong way on one-ways, and that doesn't happen on the blocks that are two ways anymore, but it does still happen on the rest of the block that switches back to one-way. Where this gets really complicated is next summer when we tear up Sanborn. Because what in effect would happen if you were to follow 2nd Street from Main is it would be two-way for one block. then one way for one block, then two way for one block, and then you'd be stopped at Sanborn. And then on the other side of Sanborn, it would be two way for one block and back to one way. So if you try to follow the logic of which is one way and which is two way through that series of 5 blocks, it's really complicated. Now, if we switch that just for the length of the construction, then when construction's done, we're going to have to train people back into driving one way for part of the street and two way for the other part of the street. I think we're just going to confuse people with all the tear-ups that are going to happen. You know, I kind of tried to create a visual aid because it's hard to follow in your head. But essentially, if you follow the yellow and the blue right here, that's what would be. Some would be two way and some would be one way. It repetitively would change down those streets. So my suggestion was to look at a minimum of changing to a two-way from Main Street to Minnesota. It's already a two-way, I'm sorry, from Lawler to Main, so all the way to Minnesota Street, so it's a through street. Part of that's going to have to be changed during construction anyway, and this would just be leaving it that way, and possibly to look at even going further than that, but certainly from Minnesota to Lawler.
My question to Justin on this is that we had a vote by the public vote to go ahead and keep it at one way. Now, what happens if we change it? I understand we might have to change it for the construction. If we just leave it like that down the road, what happens? Tell me what we're in for. Anything?
Well, no, there really isn't a conflict there. It's not like other. I think what you might be thinking of is like the park situation by the
right.
lake. There we've got other provisions of state law that says if you want to change something from being called a park, you have to have a vote to overturn that. But on something like this, a traffic issue, you don't have anything in state law that says once you have traffic this way, you have to have a vote to change it. So you've got a lot more flexibility in this case.
I guess my question, when we had the Sanborn construction proposal, we already had a proposal from them for the two-way streets from Minnesota to Lawler or whatever on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and actually they were going to go up to 5th and around, and they had the main arteries outlined there. So what's the benefit of that we would do it now, or you're saying just do it when construction starts? I don't the switching back and forth logic doesn't make any sense to me at all. So we're going to do it for the construction time frame if we follow the project manager's outline that SPN gave us. And so why wouldn't we just do it when construction starts and then evaluate it at the time construction is done?
I'm not opposed to that idea. If you don't make an action, my understanding is it will automatically go back to what it has been.
But isn't that decision at the end of construction next November?
So what would happen right now if you live, let's say, on the block? So you're going to change it. I guess when I followed up with Stephanie and I followed up kind of with a couple of counselors, I didn't know there was a firm plan approved to do this. They said there was some discussion, but not west of Sanborn. There would be east of Sanborn, but not west of Sanborn, is what they thought. But I guess maybe this is all ironed out already, and we don't have to worry about it.
The route that SPN had goes up Minnesota.
You know, Jeff, it was proposed in the construction plan or not?
A lot of the phase when Sanborn's closed, those side streets will all they'll be closed to through traffic anyway, so there won't be any traffic coming or going other than the residents themselves.
Are those going to change it two-way though?
For the businesses.
They'll have to during at least that part, but I mean they'll be closed to all other traffic. The only people will be able to come in and out.
Because you can't go across.
Right, because you won't be able to go across Sanborn. All the other detours that would involve with the public going through those areas are routed so that they follow the one-ways as they currently are and over onto Minnesota or over onto Main Street.
Including the businesses that won't have access.
And the only location those are at is on the 8th Street intersection. I think that we have issues, but otherwise we'll have some temporary signing to get those in and out, but there won't be any through traffic coming through there, so you will have no way but to go in and then back out. Right.
So, Justin, given the fact that it's currently one way, and we will have that shut down, does it automatically then allow Linden to say it's a two-way, or should we as a council act on that at least temporarily to say it's a two-way street? And
That way.
right. Because legally, it's still one way, regardless how Jeff says we have act. Go ahead and just go down this road.
Right.
What you're saying, it's going to be closed.
They'll be closed to through traffic.
So
Right.
it's
But if
not
you
one
live
way
on-
or two way. The
but if you
road's
live on the
closed
street-
unless you live there.
Yeah. If you live on the street, then you got to get changed back. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. If
And
it's temporary.
we will have it temporarily signed or cover up one-way signs in those areas for those blocks. Just the same as it's going on Burr Street right now. There's nobody passed anything that says that you can drive the other direction in the other lane during this time of the year.
So, and Dan, your point is make sure that it goes all the way to Minnesota, but I think that the detour around there is Minnesota anyway that SPN has proposed. So,
Right.
Dan, I think what you're asking, we're going to end up with during construction. That my question then, and maybe the council needs to consider once construction is done,
Do we keep it? Or
what do we do?
One more thing, and maybe Jeff will answer this, but so one block off of Main is two-way. The second block off of Main right now is one-way. Will that stay one-way?
No, those.
Because that's not affected by construction.
Yeah, I don't see why
So
they wouldn't.
We would
because
still have two-way, one-way,
Right.
then
It'll
two-way.
been closed.
Well, it'll be checkerboard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
One block east of Sanborn becomes two-way right now, I think by SPN's plan, and the 3 blocks west of Sanborn become two-way.
Yeah, it's in between there that
So I
there's
think what,
So that they can get to and from their,
what Dan wants to propose, that we go to two-way in all those areas instead of we have this checkerboard back and forth.
Right.
Which I totally
That's-
think makes sense.
that's
Which
makes
requires
sense.
us
Yep.
to do that by a vote, not from Jeff, because obviously we're going outside of the construction area.
Right.
Because
adding in that third is closed because of the building. It gets even more complicated to drive those blocks,
Right.
especially with more closed road.
Right.
You know, just further.
And I agree with Steve. I think under construction, we know what we have to do, obviously. But then maybe after construction, that is the time to maybe get the input from the individuals and have Dan come back and
I don't want
say,
it back and forth.
Right.
That type.
Right, and if
Checkerboard,
is that the
that's-
time then to take a look at it? And we know we've got 2 more phases of Sanborn, even though the other phase is going to be north, there's still going to be some that's going to be affected just because of the fact of north is going to be shut down, so that's going to put more pressure then on the southern roads. So you have to keep that in mind too. So we may be looking at this either next year or 2 years. Depends on what people say.
We can expand that with more construction signs too, if we need it as part of the traffic control plan. You know, rather than, you know, going through a whole ordinance part, we could still do that on a temporary basis as far as construction one ways or taking down one ways or covering them or whatever it might
Yeah,
be.
I mean, yeah, they cease to be just one way during the construction time frame.
And Dan's concern is more on especially on that east side of Sanborn where you're coming off Main Street. It's
Right.
not just signage. There's painting on the road. I mean,
Yep.
it's extremely complicated as it is right now.
Yep.
You go 2-way, 1-way, Sanborn, and if it's 2-way, 1-way, 2-way, I totally understand what your concern is.
I drive Second a lot, and they have the orange diagonal sign that shows two-way next block about halfway down the second block. And I've actually seen people driving on the left side of the road get to that sign and swerve over to the right because they think now it's a two-way mid-block. It's silly to watch. So,
Justin, any concerns?
of course.
You know, I think maybe it's a little bit cleaner if the Traffic Commission acts on it temporarily, but I think you can also say that by approving the construction plan, the council's, essentially ratified what the traffic plan is going to be for that area during the construction period. So, I think either way is probably okay. The one thing is that if the Traffic Commission doesn't act on it, once the construction's done, it automatically goes back to the way it was before. If you act on it now, it potentially would stay the way that you guys wanted it to be, or the way that you're acting on it now.
And it comes into play if we have a crash.
Yep, then I'll move that during the construction phase, we we adopt this two-way street plan on 2nd, 3rd, 4th
Lawler, Minnesota.
from Lawler to Minnesota, and that at the end of construction, before the end of construction, we revisit it as a council at Traffic Commission to discuss about what we've heard, et cetera, during the construction process of whether to leave it or go forward or change it in some other way.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody else here want to have input on it?
And then we can make sure that SPN takes that into consideration because I'm assuming next February and March we'll have the construction discussion, and we'll just make sure that that's part of that.
Right, by doing it this way, they have a heads up what we're expecting for them for signing.
And then we'll revisit it at the end.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. During construction phase only, and to be reassessed at the end of the construction.
Correct.
Next, Kevin Adams from DW Physical Plant requests consideration of adding a crosswalk from Coca Hall across to Dakota Hall. DW would also like curbs painted yellow in all 5 locations on the west side of Dakota Hall. The middle 3 curbs on the attached drawing would all be painted, and the end 2 curbs would be painted 6 feet out. This is on University, on West University Boulevard. We would have no opposition to that because they do have ADA sidewalk access at both ends of that crosswalk proposal. Anybody here to address this?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I've got another question at the DW area. Stephanie, do you have that map that you can pull up and go to Norway? That'd be just south of University there. And I'm totally in favor with this, but I was asked a question by a citizen about the crosswalks in front of LB.
Yeah, go a little farther. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So keep a little bit further south. Okay.
Right there.
West Norway Avenue. And I went and looked at this the other day, and what I was running by, the crosswalk is, I believe, about right here, and we have one of the big wide strips in front of the crosswalk that's here. But since this road, well, here's the crosswalk, you can see it, and maybe there's a strip here, but since the road's there, the cars pull all the way across the street up to the crosswalk when the crossing guard is there, and pinch everybody there and block this road. Is there any way that we can make those cars stop here and not cross that road? Because you have the crossing guards and cars pull right up here, and this is all blocked. No cars.
Probably be tough, short of putting a stop sign up.
Could you put a sign that says "Do not block intersection"?
We do. Well, we have one stop at, what does it say, Dick? Stop at the white mark or something.
But there's no white marker.
There is, isn't there? There is. Right there it is. Yep. And there's a sign that says stop here on. There is.
Okay.
But a lot of them are past it already.
Is there one on the other side?
I don't think so, because that's not blocking an intersection. That's why the white mark is there and the sign is there.
He's actually driving through.
He's driving.
Well, that scenario is identical to Dirty Bell Rocky. Identical to 100%.
So we have signage there, it's just not being taken.
And
Right.
the cars always.
And some of them may edge past it by the time the crossing guard comes out and they stop. I don't know. But how we enforce that, I don't know if there's an actual law that says if you pass that white mark, we could give you a ticket. I don't know what you give them a ticket for, as long as they're not entering the crosswalk.
I don't know.
We do ask them to, though. But
I wouldn't drive down that road.
Well, I don't know how it's set up differently, but it's the same setup as Gertie Bell Rogers, coming off of 13th Street, is where I live at. Once again, I purposely avoid that in the mornings. I take a right first and go to 14th to 15th to get on, otherwise you're never going to get out of there. But if you do come there, the cars do stop before the intersection, otherwise nobody can turn left when the crossing guard is using it. But I don't know what's over there that makes them stop, but they do. So I don't know if there's something different over there, Dick, or not, but maybe take a look at why they're stopping before 13th Street in the Gertie Bell Rogers area, because the setup is 100% identical. But I don't know why, but something's different there.
We might be able to put a flasher on the sign or something. We could attach a yellow light or something. We could try that.
They were concerned about pinching kids.
Yep. I hear you. Yep.
In the crosswalk.
Okay. All right. I got a motion and a second. All in favor say.
Before you vote, the yellow curbs, is that included in?
It is. Yep.
You're okay
Yeah,
with
that,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Will be adjourned at 6:24.
Thank you.
Call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the many blessings that you have showered upon the Mitchell community and the surrounding area. And we ask, dear Lord, that you guide the meeting this night of the Mitchell City Council. We pray, dear Lord, that the discussion and that the decisions that will be made will be for the common good, for the good of all people, and for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Sharks. Here. Smith. Here. Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything which should be removed?
Mayor, nothing to remove, but if can you bring that August mowing report up? Right there. Okay. Now, I know this was explained to us before, but the cost is actually what the service has charged us, right? For that, in that first situation, Owens charged us $350. Is that a true statement? Oh, there's Wade.
Yes, that is a true statement. Hones did some spraying for thistles on them two properties.
Okay.
And then
is the fee we charged the resident was actually $100?
That's the fee we put on top of the contractor fee.
Oh, you've explained that before. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're not losing money on this. We're adding it to the cost that's being charged.
Yep.
Okay.
So you sprayed for how many acres for $350?
They sprayed 2 lots.
2 lots. What's 2 acres? Acre and a half?
2 lots.
Oh my. Whatever.
So
it's high.
That was including mowing and spraying. So.
Oh, okay. So the mowing's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Wade. I couldn't remember exactly. I was just making sure it added to it.
One other item I want to point out is item G, DW request for Tiger logo on sidewalk for fundraiser. That is going to be similar to what the Mitchell Colonels volleyball and I guess football did, where they put them on the sidewalk. Public Works is going to work to review these with the people from here on out after this one. They will not be on the street. The streets cannot be painted, and they will not be in the area of ADA accessible ramps because colors can be affected by visual and whatnot. So, but it was on the agenda, so I just wanted to point that out.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Charks, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Roll call. Thank you. Roll call.
Sabers. Sabers.
Yes.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Sharks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried. One thing I want to point out before we go on to item number 7, we are going to flip items number 10 and 9 around. I'm sorry, I apologize. I should have mentioned that as we got going. They need to be heard in that order, so that's why they're flipping. They just got switched around when the agenda was published. So, okay. Item number 7, citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium. State your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. The items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council? Okay, one item I'd like to point out to the council is Thursday night, the Mitchell volleyball team is sponsored by the city council, so you are welcome to attend at no cost, is my understanding. So, do you support the Colonel volleyball team?
Where is that game going to be played?
That is at the high school.
And what time?
In the gym. 7 o'clock is the varsity game. We don't have to do anything. They will throw. We have some branded Mitchell T-shirts that the seniors will toss out into the crowd. So duck if they're coming at you.
The only other thing that I thought we might want to call attention to is Friday night from 3 to 5. I believe it's at the Chamber. There's a farewell for Mr. Brian Heisel. I see him in the back. And a welcome to Mark Box and Jared Indall. Mark Box is our new Brian Heisel, and Jared is the new Mitchell Main Street and Beyond director. And that's open to the public, and we hope everyone will come. And it's kind of a Beatles theme. You say goodbye and we say hello, or whatever. So come and let's have a good celebration for them.
Anything else? Okay. Item 8, committee report, traffic.
Since you were all here for the Traffic Commission, you want me to go through it all again, or is there a motion to approve as pertinent committee?
You want to rehash it?
No.
We'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody from the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 10, that should be 9 hearings. An application of Overtime Steakhouse Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center, September 21st, 2018, for an event.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody from the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application of Overtime Steakhouse Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center for September 22nd, 2018 for an event.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Cardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On the application of Overtime Steakhouse and Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center for September 28th for an event.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On the application of Overtime Steakhouse Sports Bar for a special event liquor license located at the Overtime Event Center for September 29th for an event.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 10 was 9, Board of Adjustment. Entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Mr. Barrington, is that you? Second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? The audience, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 10/1/2018. Carol Regal has requested a conditional use permit, home occupation homeopathic treatment at 820 West 3rd Avenue, legally described as Lot 11, Block 101, Lawler's 2nd Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 12, hearing on Tammy Damon, 412 North Foster Street. Tammy Damon has applied for conditional use permit, home occupation, peasant cleaning business at her home located 412 North Foster, legally described as Lot 1, Block 1, Bridal Acres Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2, single family residential.
Mayor and council members, you probably could see in the Planning Commission minutes that they did hold a hearing on this request, and you can see that they recommend denial. I see the applicant is here, and there may be other parties who wish to address this. I'll maybe yield the floor to them, and then I'll try to answer any questions that you may have subsequent to that. So, and then there was two letters that came in after. One was an email that I received on Sunday, and one was another letter of support. So those are the only ones that came back, but they came in after the agenda was published. So
Has Tammy seen these letters?
I don't know if she has.
Was there any letters of denial at all, or no?
Yeah, that list it's in there, but the letters all went out.
No denial.
No denials,
no,
was there?
No,
Okay.
no. But I'll give those to her. Can I borrow yours? Okay. This is one mine. And then this was. What did they do? And this is Joe. Give your pen. Okay. Those are the only ones that came back.
I'm Tammy Damon, and I have cleaned pheasants at my house for almost 30 years. Never had any problems with anybody, no complaints, as far as I know. I put a porta potty out in front of the house just due to the fact that the hunters would use that instead of being in my house with feathers and guts and blood and mud and whatnot all. And I have moved that like you guys asked me to, and it will not be put back there. And they brought up the fact that there was a dumpster there, and I do use that dumpster for all the leftovers. And I've never had anybody complain about that till now. My neighbors, I've talked to both of my neighbors on the north of me, Mr. Alwyn Knorr. He does not live there anymore. He comes back probably, guessing maybe once every 3-4 months. I talked to Mike Larson on the south of me. He has no issues about it whatsoever, other than he wants the dogs to stay in the vehicle, and I can understand that.
So that's dogs that come.
The hunters, if they bring their dogs and let them out to go to the bathroom or whatever, you know. I guess at this point I feel like I run a very good service, and I don't know what the hunters are going to do.
How often do you have the dumpster empty?
Is when it gets full. You know, in the beginning of the season, it's going to be more often because I'm busier. When the season gets down the road a little ways, then it's not as often, but it gets cold. You know, the weather changes. So that helps a lot, too.
Well, I sit on the as a liaison on the Planning Commission, and what was the thing? First of all, was the outhouse or the porta potty in front of the house, she said that she would eliminate that. That's gone.
Yep.
The hunters, if they got to go to the bathroom, they can go through her house and go to the bathroom or go down to the C-store. The other one, they were picking a little bit on the dumpster, which is fine. My understanding, when I talked to, I think it was one of the guides here, said that when it's hotter, that it's 3 to 4 days they pick it up. When it's colder, it's obviously you got less birds and it doesn't stink at all. And other than that, one thought maybe it was too close to the hospital, one thought the road was too busy. But you've been there for 30 years.
Yeah. And I've never had any, the only time I had the police officers stop there and complain was because we first had the dumpster too close to the, like on the boulevard. And he asked me to move it and I moved it, you know.
Where do you currently have the dumpster at now, Tammy?
I don't have a dumpster there, only when I'm cleaning pheasants.
Right, when you have it there, is it?
It's right up against my garage.
Against the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've decided no more porta potties?
Right.
At that point.
No, I will take that out and not put it back.
So basically the dumpster's there for 2 months
Yeah,
at the most.
yeah.
And we have a lot of people rolling through after so many years of being in the neighborhoods and say, I guess I didn't even realize I needed any type of permit. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, I didn't. I think I talked to Neil, and he was the one that told me that I needed a permit because somebody was complaining about it.
I've heard nothing but support for you, all the comments.
I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
I even had out-of-staters call me about it.
Did you really? How the heck did they find out?
I think they were told by somebody, but I don't know.
Did you want to talk, Mike?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, folks. What we're talking about here is Tammy, of course.
Name first, please.
Mike Kuchera.
Thank you.
South Dakota Guide Service. Tammy runs A1, as you know, cleaning business. She's been cleaning birds for 30 years, no problem. Dev and I have used the business with her for probably 15 to 18 years. We've used her particular business, and she runs her show over there for 45 to 55 days out of the year. That's it. 45 to 55 days she's done. Tammy's the only show in town. She's the only bird cleaner in town. The negatives on that was that she had said the porta potty, that's toast. It's gone. The dumpster now is moved up against the house. Every 2 to 3 days, it's gone. It's done. So what happens now if she doesn't get approved on this? 2 things will happen if she doesn't get approved. People take the birds and throw them in a dumpster. Okay? Sad to say, but that's reality. The other thing is, every 2 days, like you say, that'd be a negative, so that's going to be dumped every 2 days. Everything is good there. Conclusion of the whole thing is this. We're toting $8 to $10 million business in our city of Mitchell with bird hunting. I wish it was 20 million. I wish it was more than that, but it's that. Okay, so all of a sudden we're telling all these people to come here at the particular Corn Palace, the big show, the 600 people there, there's probably 6, 8, 9 people every time. Dave Allen says the same thing as the president of Pheasants Forever. You know, hey, Mike, where do we get the birds cleaned tomorrow? Well, just go to Tammy's. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is if there's no bird cleaner in town, people won't come back because that's that's crucial. And we're 30 days out right here now. It's not that we're talking this in February. We're 30 days out. So that's the long and the short of the story. It's a critical thing in our Mitchell area. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wish to address this? Yeah, you got to state your name even though everybody knows who you are.
I'm Brian Heisel, and I'm leaving. Mike stopped over, and I know Tammy. I've used this service. I could tell by your questions, clearly conditional use permit, but someone that's been in business 30 years, runs a seasonal business, a small business, works that hard, does a real service. I would hope you could be generous in terms of looking at the time you're making this decision. It's a bit of an unusual location, but she does a great job with it. And I think being the only service left, we used to have a couple, and we're down to one. And if you decide not to issue this conditional use permit, you're going to be down to 0. And it is a multi-million-dollar benefit to our hotels, restaurants, and businesses. So that's my quick pitch for you. I don't think you shut down a 30-year business a week or 2 or 3 away from their key season. That's just really, that's almost punitive in some ways. While a conditional use permit is the letter of the law, I think the spirit here is that someone's done a good job for a long time. And that's what I wanted to tell you. I hope you can be generous with your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council?
So Neil, to override this, we have to have a 6 votes?
Correct, and this is a conditional use permit, so you have the right to put any conditions that you deem appropriate. Yeah, I'll take 6, yeah.
I'll make a motion to keep her where she is without the porta potty, no porta potty. They dump the pheasants as needed, the dumpster, and go from there. I mean, she's been there 30 years. Let's keep her in business.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion?
I was just going to make a comment, Bob, that very rarely do we ever overturn the planning commission, but I just don't understand the rationale behind this vote, so I'm going to be voting in favor of this.
The only thing I ask on this, since it is a conditional use, we have gotten complaints about the porta potty. That's fixed. But I would suggest no later than noon on January 7th, the dumpster is removed, and since the business is done.
Well, hunting still goes January 7th this year.
No, 7th is a Monday. Goes till the 6th.
Okay.
Well, let's go. Let's
put it till the end of the middle of
October
January.
1st till January, the first Sunday and our first Monday
January 15th.
That's fine. I just want to make sure like I said, we have gotten complaints on it in the past.
Let's give her a couple days. Let's
The
say
porta potty's
January
gone
15th.
now. That's fine. But just let's make sure everything's cleaned up sooner than later.
My question to you then, Wade, is what about preserves? So what should you do then? Preserves go until, I think, March 15th or
Okay.
so.
I mean,
but
I would suggest that we have a date when everything is cleaned up. I would ask that.
Tammy, do you have a preference on date?
What kind of business you get, Tammy, from the preserves? Your timeline?
After January.
What now?
What your preference on the dumpster? What dates would you like to see?
I usually take everything out as soon as I can get it out of there, because when I'm
do any
done, I'm
preserve
done.
cleaning?
Well, give us a date. January 1st?
Oh no, middle of December.
Fair enough.
Let's do January 1st.
Yeah. No, as soon
Why
as
don't you give her till
7th
the
is
end of hunting
or the
season?
6th is the end of pheasant.
So, right, the 6th.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm done before then.
I
Amend
mean,
it
if you
till
want to give that extra week, just to
amended.
I'll amend it till January 15th.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who made the second on that? Are you okay with that? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. The motion is to allow the conditional use with the condition that there's no porta potty and that the dumpster be removed by January 15th.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody from the audience wish to further address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 13, hearing on Andrew and Kyra Mentel, 718 North Norway. Andrew and Kyra Mentel have applied for an oversized variance of 3,024 square feet versus 2,000 square feet is required in order to construct a garage at 718 North Norway, or excuse me, West Norway. I must be incorrect in the title block. Huh? 718 West Norway, is that the address?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Legally, just I guess you live next door. Don't you?
I was going to wait to bring that up.
All right. Legally described as Lot 7, 8, and west 29 feet of Lot 9, Block 43, University Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2. And the reason I bring that up is in the initial title up there, I said North Norway. So
I see.
It
Okay.
is West Norway.
Yep, sorry.
Okay?
That's my...
No problem.
Okay. Mayor and Council, as you could see in the Planning Commission minutes of September 10th, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this request. You probably would notice if there's some things that are a little bit unique about this one is that there's that drain tile that's in there. And so that does kind of hinder the possible development of that. So I just wanted to make sure to bring that to your attention. There was no objection to this. The applicant did supply some aerial photos there that you probably have noticed in there. And he's here if you've got any specific questions. I believe there is some material in there that talks about the construction features and things of that nature. The one thing that was a little bit of a concern, you probably noticed that in the minutes, was the drainage. And so that was just kind of the primary discussion about it. So he's here if you have any questions about that.
Just a reminder, Mayor kind of alluded to it, but I do live next door, so I'm going to have to recuse myself from this discussion. Cross my fingers that you don't have any legal questions.
Please state your names.
My name is Nancy Torgerson. This is my husband, Runa Torgerson. We live at 816 West Norway. We're outside of the area that had to be notified about this building. The concern we have is that Mr. Mentel owns Dakota Pro Striping, and we don't want this garage used for commercial purposes or for his commercial operation. It's really, really close to I-90, so, you know, it'd be a great place to have your trucks and stuff. And it is very close to L.B. Williams. That's only about 2 blocks away from here. And that's our concern, is that we don't want this to become a business running out of that.
You would have to apply for a conditional use permit to run a business out of that location.
Okay.
That is not part of this, I don't think, no.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's not a problem with him parking his vehicle in this shed, right? I mean, maybe Andy wants to come up and talk about that.
Andy Mentel. Yep, the only thing this is for is just for my storage. Right now I have it spread out over multiple areas, and this would bring everything together. No people would come here. I have 1 employee in the summertime that's part-time. Otherwise, that's it.
Thank you.
And you'll gain access off of Norway?
Nothing. And the building is all the way to the back. I don't know if you can show the other picture. I did move it off the west side of the property more than needed.
To get rid of, away from the drain tile?
It's 15. No, the drain tile is actually in the front. You can see it circled right there.
Yep.
And there was, the one neighbor to the west was concerned about water, so I am actually going to tie onto that drain tile. Since Bathke gave me approval, and run that all the way down the west side, so there shouldn't be any issues there. The east side will all be drained.
So you got approval with Davidson County? No problem with
that? Yeah. Yep. And no tin. It'll look better than my house by the time I'm done. So it'll have smart lap siding and asphalt shingles and.
Okay. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion?
And I just want to say that I also received a couple calls from people in the neighborhood, but that are further away than the legally required notification for the letters. Their same concern was didn't want a business being run out of there, but now that I see what the Planning Commission saw and the pictures and that type of stuff, and the people actually living right next door didn't have an issue with it. I understand the concern. There's 2 lots that have been vacant in that street for a long time. They both sit low. Anybody that's going to put anything in them is going to have to make sure that the drainage is correct and that type of stuff. And this seems to be taken care of, at least in this lot. So.
Okay. Further discussion? The audience? Anybody want to address this anymore? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene as City Council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the City Council reconvene in regular session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Anybody from the audience wish to discuss this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 15, action to approve Agreement A 2018-26 Master Plan and Economic Impact Study.
Okay.
Mr. Paul, you talking to this one? Fire away.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will go through the process to find the Lake Mitchell Master Plan and Economic Impact Study. We did send out a statement of interest to 9 firms. We received 2 in return, and of those 2, that we had a committee, including the mayor, city staff, and Councilman Rice was also involved in that committee, and they chose the one that you have before you. The decision was RDG Planning and Design as leading the project. This is to define the big picture, the overall plan for master plan for Lake Mitchell. This plan is based on our water quality issues. It'll incorporate the technical memorandum. It'll also incorporate the strategy adopted by the Lake Committee. It'll look at the economic impact. That'll include the value of cleaning Lake Mitchell, as well as its current value as it sits today. And that'll be our benchmark, so we know what we're doing going forward here. The funding, it'll also include funding strategies. It'll look at property values, sales tax, and tourism as well as part of this plan.
They're also looking at the proposed boat docks, correct?
That's correct. The boat docks and all the capital projects around the lake, and that might include a marina and some more included with the boat docks down the road. So we want to make sure we're getting that in the right place to handle what might come in the future. We're going to prioritize the projects in conjunction with the lake cleanup, so there's going to be a solid timeline of lake cleanup and capital projects. There's also going to be a prioritized list with an implementation plan. They'll have recommended improvements, and that'll be informed through the community engagement process. There'll be 3 public meetings, and as well as a final presentation when it's all complete to City Council and the Lake Committee and the Parks Board. All improvements will have cost ranges and targeted timeframes with short, mid-range, and long-term goals. And this was also part of the Focus 2020, which we also included in your packet tonight. And I'll just read the vision there, was to significantly enhance water quality in the lake and to find ways to increase recreational visitor development, and also to create a master plan for community, recreation, public access, and future land use around Lake Mitchell. And that's what I have right now. If you have any questions, Kyle's also been involved with this, and I'm sure we can answer any questions that you might have.
I'm going to make a motion to deny it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. McCardle, second by... Did you do that, Mr. Dozier? Second by Mr. Dozier.
Can you tell us why?
We've done study after study. It's time to do action instead of keep doing studies. We know what the lake's done. I mean, we wouldn't talk about the lake all the time if it wasn't important to the community. So we put enough money into studies, I feel, and people around town tell me, you're a fool if you do another study, and I kind of agree with them. So.
And 119,000 is for another study to tell us the importance and the impact that the lake has.
We already know it.
We know it needs attention. We know that a clean lake would bring more visitors. We know a lot of what this study for $119,000 would tell us.
This would be $350,000 since I've been on the council that they spent. I mean,
I think
you put that much money into the lake. I mean, we could do something instead of just.
Well, here's the problem. So we're looking at $10 to $20 million to fix the lake.
Yeah, we know we need it.
I know. So when you go to the city and ask them to support that 10 to 20 million, actually you need $20 million. What are you going to tell them is the reason you need to fix it?
The same reason that they've been told for the last 50 years, probably.
That's not going to answer their questions. You're not, and I don't think you're going to get, if it gets referred to.
You think it's worth $120,000?
I think it is. I think it was noted in 2010 that it needed to be done.
That's why I denied it. I don't think it is.
I think what's happened is we kind of put the cart before the horse in the original work on the lake.
Have you had people thinking it's a good idea to you? Have they told you that?
I have had both. I haven't had anybody oppose.
I haven't had anybody tell me it's good. I've had a lot of people tell me no.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in order for us to bond for that extra money, don't we need to be able to have some kind of an economic impact study that's been done so that we can justify that added? Am I wrong about that?
Can't we do that in-house?
I think that the question that was, or the comment that was posed during the original discussion was not for the bonding, but for grant applications.
Right.
For bonds, you wouldn't need to have a.
But to go above the bonding.
To do grant applications, I believe that the Lake Committee thought that this would aid them in that application process, but Nate could probably answer that better.
So repeat the question then. Is it,
that the master plan would help in the grant application process?
That's correct. That's what, you know, anytime you're going after grants, you've got to show what the long-term plan is and what the end result will be. And I do want to add, just since we're talking about possibly denying it, I want to say about 80,000 is the master plan portion and about 40 is the economic impact study. Give or take $5,000 if you split those up, but those are two different parts of this.
And it cannot be done in-house. We don't have the expertise, the knowledge, the background, the information to go forward without spending more money.
And not for an economic impact study. That's the.
So is there an opportunity to move forward with the master plan and not the economic impact? Because me too, born and raised in Lake Mitchell. I mean, I know the impact that Lake Mitchell has on the city and surrounding areas and the state. I have an issue to have somebody tell me what I believe the economic impact is to it, because I already know that answer. It's huge. However, we do need a master plan out there to probably get things all figured out of what needs to be going on around the lake and going on. I mean, over the years, we've been putting things into the lake ourselves as a council, doing what we believe is the best thing. We got a couple of the projects that we're going to try to add this next year, and I think there might be obviously a little bit, better vision out there for us to hear, but I don't think we need somebody to tell us the impact of Lake Mitchell, because we know what it is, and it's tremendous on our community.
Everybody knows what it is.
But the master plan is a separate issue, I guess. So my question is, and I'm not saying it's even a thought for the council, but is there a possibility of separating that? Maybe the council here has an issue with the economic impact, but they know we need a master plan. I mean, is that something with maybe the council's thinking about taking those two apart and doing one and not the other? I don't know, Mr. Mayor. I'm just throwing out what things are going through my thoughts and some things I'm hearing on some concern about economic impact compared to the master plan, because they are totally two separate issues to make this come together, I guess.
They are two separate issues, but it made sense to tie them together into one study. Number one, because we're going to have to go to the city and ask them to support a large funding to do the project. I don't see it happening. For you to say, I agree with you, it has a huge impact on the city, but quantify that for me. You can't. Not one of us can.
It would also look at so the master plan is going to come with capital projects. It could be $10 or $20 million, another $10 million of projects that we would want to justify through the economic portion of this. So it's not, it's tying everything that we've been talking about together, bringing it all together and saying, this is our plan, this is how we're going to prioritize this plan based on the financial, economic impact that we have through that process, and do what makes sense and in what order as well. And so it's a big picture issue that we have not addressed previously.
So you're saying instead of the $10 to $19 million, it could be between 20 and 50. We don't know.
They might tell us to drain the lake. Plant corn there.
I'm just asking for the master plan for something extra you're talking about.
The master plan, I don't know.
We don't know what that costs.
We just don't know.
Yeah, and I just don't, right, and I don't see us being able to go to the city and get, if we get referred, to tell them, well, we know there's an economic impact. Whoop-de-doo. Quantify that for me. You can't.
Haven't they said in the past that there is no grants for the in-lake?
Right now, there's nothing for the in-lake, but we have to do the upstream to clean the whole lake.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we should be doing, is upstream anyway. I think.
I agree.
Save the $120,000 and put it upstream, is what I say.
I don't think you're going to get the money to do upstream either. Not when it comes to the other people that don't live around that lake.
I think we're just throwing money away myself. That's my opinion.
Is this coming out of your budget, the Park and Rec budget, or where's the 120 coming from?
The proposal would be to take it out of that separate division budget in the water fund that would be offset with the revenue that comes in from Poet for the water purchase from Lake Mitchell.
I thought we were using that already in our budget.
You are next year. It's this year's contribution.
Does anybody else want to address this?
Mr. Mayor and Council, just a point of view here, the additional onto the Focus 2020 strategy, it's in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. One of the objectives and strategies is a community vision for the land, and that is the first bullet item is to create a new site master plan for Lake Mitchell to maximize the park's value.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this?
I guess just from the review of when the committee reviewed the different proposals, one point that I just wanted to make that kind of made this proposal stand out maybe a little bit over the other one is their approach to the community engagement and what the long-term use of the lake was going to be. Those that were reviewing the proposals at least liked the way that they were engaging with the community with public input process to get feedback as to what they wanted to see that master use of the lake moving forward.
And I think that's an important differentiation that we need to make, is that a lot of the studies that we've done have been, you know, what do we need to do about Lake Mitchell? I feel like this is kind of a different approach. This isn't the same study that's been done before now. I think this is going to give us answers that we don't have yet.
No, we are not going to be duplicative in our study. We made sure of that as one of the questions that we asked to RDG. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, we have a motion to recommend denial and a second. Motion was by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Dosher. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to deny, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. Denied.
One reason for my vote, and I'm not opposed to this, but is it premature? And I know the next thing's going to say is when do you have the one before you have the other? But we're still working through the finance side and the actual plan itself. And in the end, you know, we've asked this question ourselves: if it's too expensive for us to do much of anything, does it matter if we have an economic plan there or not? And honestly, I think the answer is going to be we need to save Lake Mitchell, and it is dying, and it is going to be dead at some point in time. But I'm not opposed to looking at this down the road when we get a few more of these answers to the questions that we've got out there.
I guess I'm not sure what answers. We know that the action that needs to be taken. Number one, we need to dredge, or not number one. In my opinion, number one is the watershed.
Right, and that's
but they need to happen together.
Yeah.
To do that, we know a relative cost to do that.
Yeah. And we're even getting conflicting reports right now is should we drain or not drain? You know, what type of dredge should we need to do? Where would you take that? And I know we're working on this, and we all agree we have got to start paying a lot more attention on the watershed. We know that's exactly where it came from. And I do agree also that we've got the sediment in the lake, and 47% of it is sitting there. We have to come up with a plan with both. But I just think at this point in time, the people are saying it's just too vague at this point for us to support it. But that's just what I've been getting.
That's what I hear from
Mayor.
you know. If I had a magic wand, I could fix the lake. I'd do it in a heartbeat. But from what I hear from people around town, is
your magic wand,
and what if it is that $50 to $60 million? Yeah.
I think the prices you have are going to be there. 20 million. The thing is, where do we get 20 million? Okay, so now if we say, hey, we're going to do this and go forward, it's going to get referred. So what are you going to tell? Why do I do this?
Right. And Bob, you're working on things right now as we're speaking, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. And I'm really anxious to see how you are going to kind of put this together and present it. And then at that point in time, I think we've got more
You kind of
information.
put a roadblock on me here.
Well, no, you know, I know what you're doing.
So,
and you're working on it, and you're trying to come with some solutions that make sense for everybody, and it's going to take a little bit more time. But we know the watershed is absolutely enormous, but how do we get it down to a point where we can try to get to a point where we've got some cleaner water coming into the lake? And those are the things that I know you're focusing in on right now, and I think once we get a little more answers that we can start sharing these things, that you're comfortable with it, then I think we can start moving into maybe some additional funds. And I agree with you that if this gets referred, which I probably think it, with the size of the project we're going to have, we're going to need more answers. And without this, I think it's going to be a little difficult. So I'm not saying no forever. I'm saying no today, and looking forward to some of the other pieces that we're putting together.
Okay.
And
well, it kind of falls into a timing issue. You know, this is not a study that gets done overnight. We're looking at having it by April or May of next year. So, you know, now, funding-wise, you know, we'll go back to the drawing board and see what we can come up with. But I hate to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, but I think you're going to have to do this study in order to give the people answers when it gets referred to a vote.
And I think that's my concern, is that I'm afraid that we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because we sit around this table and we say, we all know that we want to clean up the lake, but without the information that we can, I've had people that don't live around the lake that are saying, well, I don't want you to spend my money on that lake, and I need to be able to have an answer for them and say, this is why we need to do it. And this lake isn't just for the people that live, or this study isn't just for the people around the lake, or the investment isn't, but it's also for our community and the growth and the money that comes into our town because of that lake and the improvements that we need to make. I'm concerned that by stopping this study, I'm not sure where we go from here, because I think that we're taking a giant step back. And I don't know if, you know, for me, that economic impact, maybe, in my opinion, in terms of fixing the lake, is maybe more important than the master plan. If you wanted to break them apart, I almost feel like that economic impact part is more crucial at this moment in time, at this juncture, maybe, than the other. But
I guess I echo that sentiment. I think it is probably, if we're going to get something done for the lake, I feel that is probably more important than the master plan. We can figure out what we want to do and need to do with the lake ourselves if we had to. You know, the nice thing is that it comes as a package.
Nathan, is it possible to break it apart at all?
Yeah, certainly. I would want to go back and get some quotes from some planning firms, and maybe some different ones as well, if you're going to specialize.
You know, I think the bottom line here is we got a ball rolling, and it needed to get rolling, quite frankly, so something gets done with the lake. But it would have been nice knowing that they had initially looked at this, if this would have been done before everything else started rolling along. Because I think this gives you a lot of answers that you need to be able to fund that lake. So, but we'll keep plugging along and see what we can get done.
Mayor, have they indicated at all how long they were going to make this offer, or is it, since we denied it tonight, is it off the table? Or
no, I think it's good for the offer. The study, or the price is good for 30 or 45 days, isn't it?
30 days, and that's up tomorrow.
Oh. Okay. No, it was, we had it a little over 2 weeks ago. We discussed it amongst ourselves before it came to you guys. Because our initial take on it was, we were concerned about some of the questions, or some of the things that we wanted to verify some of the parts of it to make sure we understood what they were giving us for questions that might come up in council. So that's probably on me more than anybody
Well,
else.
100 and some pages, that's a lot to take in short period of time.
As a council, anyway.
And part of that's why we had a committee get together and go through each presentation and evaluate them, and Mr. Rice sat in on that as well. So that's how the selection came to be made. I guess we left it up to the council as to who all they wanted to ask to come be part of that part of that. You know, too many people and you don't get anything done either. So, okay.
One quick thing, Bob, to add up, finish up on that is when I read through the report, I see that most of their success stories were in very large cities.
RDG is a very large architectural engineering firm.
Yeah, I would like to have seen maybe just a few more, maybe at least a middle of the road or smaller like our size, just to kind of see.
I'm afraid most of the money that's available to do those things comes from larger cities.
That's what we're battling.
So, yes. So, you know, the other side of that, if you want, we could reach out to them and see if they would extend it. But you know, if the best we'd probably get is another 15 days on it. So.
I'm just curious if there would be more support if we broke it out, just out of curiosity. If any of you would be more supportive of that.
No.
Well, we need to ask a question, just so we know. I mean, I know it's up tomorrow, but we couldn't decide tonight anyway because we didn't know. I'm sorry. We don't know tonight if even if we broke it out ourselves, if they would accept it. So we do need to ask the question.
We can ask that question. Yeah. Can you get back to them tomorrow?
Well, I'll get back to them tomorrow and have them split that up.
Thank you. Okay. Item 16, action to accept Farmhouse Plaza project number 2016-18 direct Swinkle construction notice of acceptability.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the final change order was approved by Council on September 4th. Per the recommendation by our consultant, the 6th Avenue Plaza should be accepted for final completion. The contractor does have warranty obligations for replacing and repainting the lettering and doing some landscaping and additional fill dirt and topsoil in the green area. But we expect that these warranty items will be addressed within 90 days, and staff recommends our acceptance of the job.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of them? Were you getting up? Oh, sorry. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. 17, action to award bid for East Haven's Water Main Loop City Project number 2018-25.
Mr. Mayor and Council, bids were open on September 6th. We had a total of 7 contractors that submitted bids, and the low bid was Menning Backhoe for $111,464.20. The project is connecting 2 separate water loop lines right now and creating a looping system. This area is part of the water improvement study and will provide a new fire protection loop in the area in front of Performance Project site.
Kyle, what was that budgeted for? How much?
Well, the other thing I need to point out is this is something that the council made approval on in 2017 in applying for a grant through the governor's office. The maximum amount of that was up to $250,000, but the city's project is going to be paired with work that's being done by Mitchell Area Development Corporation through a public easement on Performance Pet's property. The city is using one-time sales tax revenue that was generated from some equipment purchases by Performance Pet as part of their expansion. The estimated amount for that was up to $200,000. So we wanted it to fall under that one-time sales tax increase.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of awarding the bid to Menning Backhoe.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle.
Question, the timing, I mean, starting almost immediately type, is that where they are on?
Yes, that's correct. We want to get them a notice to proceed very quickly so they can start right away.
Okay.
And I think we noticed this when we accepted the grant from the state, but the coordination of those documentation is being done by District 3 for us and Development Corporation both.
Okay, further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Carried on proposed resolution of necessity for 2017 construction projects and 2017 nuisance abatements.
This time we'll hold our yearly public hearing on our collection notices. This is for work that was done for sidewalk projects throughout last year, and all of the nuisance abatements that was done last year. All of the sidewalk will be separated into 5-year payments that'll go on your taxes, and they'll come out on the first half of your taxes at a percentage rate of 8%. Starting tomorrow, the finance office will be sending out notices that'll have the split outs for the 5 years at 8%, or nuisances will be all into 1 year. Starting tomorrow, we'll start the first day of 30 days of no interest, so people could come in and pay for their bill starting tomorrow up to 30 days without paying any of their interest. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question about their sidewalk notice? And anyone in the audience that has a question about their nuisance notice? Does council have any questions?
Yeah, what's the interest rate?
Interest rate is at 8%.
And bankers sure make a lot of money.
You're the banker in this.
I was surprised at how many of these properties are owned by out-of-state entities and out-of-town places.
Sometimes it makes it difficult for correspondence when you have people that live out of town, but it just takes a little bit longer. All right, if no other questions, then we could go into the resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion?
The one thing I wanted to mention on the resolution, on that second page, you'll see the amounts that were for sidewalk projects, which is $26,299.20, and the amount for nuisance is $6,291.
Okay, anybody in the audience wish to comment on this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 19, action to approve resolution R 2018-46, collection of special assessment rolls for 2017 projects and nuisance abatements.
That's the one they just approved, Mayor.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they did the hearing and
Oh,
then
I'm
they
sorry.
did the
Okay.
resolution.
Number 20.
Number 20, action to approve resolution R 2018-50, the resolution authorizing application for financial assistance, authorizing the execution and submittal of the application, and designating an authorized representative to certify and sign pay requests.
I'm going to speak to both item number 20 and 21 at the same time because the resolutions are both in a relation to the same project. This is the necessary steps and time for a hearing for anyone to come in and express concerns for the East Central Drainage Project summary that we've reviewed several times here at meetings now. This would be adding a new outflow pipe to that drainage basin up to Dry Run Creek. A couple things just to point out that I have to make sure that we note as part of the hearing. I got to read this off. We can definitely go through the presentation again if anybody needs to see that for another time, or another time in addition to when you've seen it previously. But the proposed financing, we have the Clean Water SRF in the amount of $3,575,000. as well as a drinking water SRF in the amount of $690,000. It also includes non-point source financing in the amount of $356,000. This is similar to what we discussed with Sanborn, where they basically give us a lower interest rate, but they're really not. Our payment stays the same, and then that money is given to James River Water Development District for them to do watershed improvements for Lake Mitchell. So that will be added to the amount that was approved as part of the Sanborn project, with the joint total of that being close to, it's somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000. I don't have that right in front of me. The source of the loan repayment will come from surcharge for the clean water SRF, and then the remaining, the drinking water SRF, will come out of the regular water revenue. We will be doing a review of our annual rates. We did get an updated 2018 survey from AE2S, or S2, AE2S. I did plug that into the same rate comparison that you looked at earlier this year, and everybody else went up, and we were comparing to the previous year's rates, so we're still quite low. So the conversation we're going to have as staff is we're going to first look at how that comparison is, and then secondly bring to council how we want to look at that surcharge and what our rate structure needs to be going forward. The other important consideration and part of that conversation is you're in the process of filling up or finishing the facility plan for wastewater, so you may want to be looking at rates to accommodate the outcome of that study as well. If there's any questions on the project, I'll have Kyle answer them because he'll be much better prepared than me to talk about the specifics of it. But otherwise, this is a time for anyone in the public to come in and talk about any of the concerns they might have with the project or the financing application as well. Oh, and we have Jeff too, so we can make him answer questions. And again, the only reason why you're seeing two separate resolutions is one is for the clean water and one is for the drinking water application.
Move to approve resolution 2018-50.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second. Okay, who? Okay, Mr. Rice, was that you, Mr. Rice? Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Number 21, action to approve resolution R 2018-52, resolution authorizing the application for financial assistance, authorizing the execution and submittal of the application, and designating authorized representative to certify and sign pay requests.
And this is the second resolution that I just spoke to, and this portion is for the drinking water SRF financing. It looks like.
Move to approve 2018-52.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 22, action to approve resolution R 2018-51, hearing on the petition to vacate a portion of an alley right-of-way described as the north 60.02 feet of the alley in Block 9, Van Epps, First Edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
You would notice that there's a petition that has been submitted by the estate of the Phillips, Vicki Phillips, and also the city, since the city does own a parcel to the south. And the Planning Commission did a review of this and had no objections. Basically what they're doing is they're only vacating approximately 60 feet where there's there you go. You can kind of see that there's a house that encroaches into that alley. Now the alley is the north-south piece, right there. Yep, thank you. And it's just the 60 feet to come up to that side and just to clean up that encroachment. It's not vacating the whole alley, just that little portion. Again, the petitioners are on both sides. So, did I miss anything? And this is part of it to help clean up the estate that's in there. So that's how they kind of discovered it. And there's exhibits in there. You probably saw the surveys in there. So.
Yep.
just for future reference, with the lot that the city owns to the south of the property, you'll probably see back here before too long an encroachment easement on that area, since there are, I'm not sure if the overhang, but certainly there's some decks and stuff in the area behind the home there that's actually on the city lot. So just a heads up that that'll be down the pipeline.
Josh, we're so sorry about your mom's passing. She was a great lady. Oh, your aunt. Okay, I just assumed it was your mom. I would like to, what's that? I'd like to move approval of resolution number 2018-50.
Okay. A motion by Mrs. Charles.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading and adoption of ordinance. Sorry. I'm sorry. Did you need to address us or? Okay. Sorry. Second reading and adoption of ordinance O 2018-09, 2019 annual appropriation ordinance.
There haven't been any changes to this since the first reading. The only item that I added that would be different from your last meeting is I did include the most recent sales tax projections. Michelle had the sales tax receipt report in the department head update. But if you look here where we reported 6.8% increase over this time last year, if you factor out that one-time increase from Performance Pet, we're at still 3.2% above. So depending on how the rest of the end of the year goes, we should likely meet budget. So we're still comfortable leaving that increase as we proposed in the revenue budget.
Are we pretty sure that Performance Pet has paid that sales tax? Or?
We know that a significant amount of it was. They had already made down payments and purchased, I think they said 60% of the equipment before May.
Okay. All right.
So that was the last time Brian checked with the CEO on the purchase for me. And know that.
Second reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice for second reading. Any further discussion?
Just one comment. I was asked on that sales tax projection this weekend about whether that's due to internet sales tax, and I just want to point out that that legislation just passed, so we're not receiving any of that yet. And we didn't factor any increase for that into next year's budget. So if we do end up realizing an increase, the council can decide at a later date what to use that additional revenue for.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to approve request public comment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Roll call vote.
Smith.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
McCardle.
Aye.
Dosher. Rice.
Aye.
Sabers.
Item 27, first reading on ordinance O 2018-11, amending MCC 5-4A-3.
Oh.
D.
Item number 25.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I did skip. Second reading adoption of ordinance O 2018-10, supplemental appropriations.
There are, again, no changes from the last meeting's discussion on this item. I can review any of the items listed. This ordinance will not change the structurally balanced budget because it's coming out of designated cash for intended purposes. That should be everything that we discussed at the last meeting as well.
Entertain a motion.
Move approval of 2018 dash, is it dash 10?
Yep.
Dash 10.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Just roll call then? Or is that next?
The motion to adopt first.
Okay. You went second reading. We got to do the adoption after this.
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now, we have a motion by Mrs. Charts to adopt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Okay. Roll call.
Barrington. Aye. Allen.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Okay, now we're on the first reading. Ordinance O 2018-11, amending MCC 5-4A-3B regarding alternative waste drop-off sites, and this is the compost area.
Yeah, so as we were reevaluating the situation at the compost area, we just decided to make things a little bit clearer and to give Public Works a little bit more flexibility if they want to create some future sites for alternative drop-off. So I think the language of the ordinance and the staff report are probably pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just open it up for questions.
I just wanted to comment and say thanks. I've been asked by a couple people since the words got out that we're going to try and make it, I'll just call it more user-friendly on the West 8th Avenue site. If we're really trying to promote, could there be a site on the east side of town someplace? And this would give us the opportunity to look or have that instead of making people drive completely to the west edge of town. But just the concept of people cleaning up their yards or cleaning up their properties and having a place to take it that's convenient. I think the city can use that to just keep the momentum going for promotion of a better looking city. So this would give us the opportunity to maybe look at an additional site or even other types of cleanup sites that might come up sometime in the future. So
Will this be open 8 to 8, or what is the?
Be open 8 to sunset, basically. And then I got to thank the department heads for working with me on getting this going. I've had a lot of people ask me if it's going to be ready to go here pretty soon, so we're working on it. I told them there's an ordinance reading tonight, and we'll hopefully get it going here fairly quickly. But they've been very willing to work on this and get it up and going with these extended hours. So
Is the cameras up?
the cameras are up. Is Kevin here yet? They're up, and we were getting power to them. The power was run, but they weren't hooked up yet. Are they hooked up now, Kevin?
I don't know if you got the power done.
Yeah, I think we're still waiting on the power right now.
Okay.
And then after that, it should be good. We'll set the hours, and we'll work with Lyndon on closing the gates and locking them, and Public Works will open them.
Yep. So we're getting real close. Thank you.
Mayor, was there any just more discussion on like signage, or are we going to kind of wait till next year?
We are putting signage up that says no commercial dumping, because if we do that, then we're going to end up with a huge cost to move it. So we want the commercial people to
still go
south to the dump site.
Okay.
We need a motion. Nope, haven't had a motion yet.
I'll move approval of first reading of 2018-11.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Church. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.